Hi everyone, this is Janelle here from Amplified Customer Experience, and I'm so excited that today I have Michelle Badenhorst with me and Stacy Sherman to dive into this. It's such an important topic around experience design in the CX space. So before we do that, I'm just going to give you a quick introduction to both Stacy and Michelle. So Stacy Sherman is a CX leader, strategist, practitioner, and digital marketer. She's known for humanizing business and differentiating brands beyond price. Stacy is currently the director of CX and employee engagement at Schindler Elevator Corporation, and she previously led CX at Verizon. During her personal time, Stacy's writing for Forbes, speaking and coaching people. She's on a mission to inspire great, authentic customer experiences fueled by motivated, happy employees. Oh, I love that, Stacy. That's just such a powerful line. It is the reason she started doing CX Right, the journey-based framework that maximizes satisfaction based on heart and science. And Michelle. Michelle is a passionate individual who enjoys helping courageous individuals to confidently inspire, initiate, and implement meaningful change. As a business professional, Michelle excels at helping businesses to drive real business change based on customer insights, resulting in financial success. She's worked with companies like Metropolitan, Old Mutual, Woolworths, and Two Oceans Aquariums in the past. So welcome to both Michelle and Stacy. And before we go further, I just want to put a quick plug in for our book, Customer Experience 2. It is an Amazon best-selling series, and it is available on Amazon. Michelle and I collaborated on the first book, and Stacy has joined us for the second version. So welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
Thanks, Janelle.
So I'm really excited to dive into the topic of experience design. It's something I've done a lot of work on with my clients, and I know I always get asked a lot of questions, and I feel like it's a really abstract sort of topic. So maybe to start, Stacy, if you wanted to comment on some of the elements that you think need to be considered for a really solid, differentiated experience.
Yes. So in the basic terms, I want people to think about a journey. It's all about a journey. So from the moment you think about a brand, you learn about it, to buying, there's an experience around purchase, getting, using, paying, as well as getting help. And so it's important that people think about those moments of truth within each of those journey points. And so at the highest level, I would say concentrate on making it easy for customers, frictionless, easy. A low level of effort is what we say in the CX world. And that's what a great experience achieves.
Great. Michelle, what do you have to add?
So I think that's spot on. I think some of the things that I can maybe just add that I often see is missing when you design the experience or you look at improving the experience is often the technology and the people aspect, the business aspect of the experience. So oftentimes we see a lot of people focus on the customer experience and the customer pain points, but that doesn't necessarily translate into the business and the technical capability and the challenges around that in delivering these experiences or the journeys, as Stacy rightly highlighted there. So I think I always think of the experience as a cake, the three layers of the cake. You've got the customer, and then you've got the people, the staff, and the technology layers. So I have this picture of a chocolate cake in my presentation, and I always that's for me the three core elements. So that really helps you to identify gaps in the business from those three perspectives: people, process, and technology. And of course, for me, the other two things that's critical when you think of experience is the metrics and the ownership. So there needs to be a view of how are we going to measure this experience or the journey metrics, experience metrics, and ownership. Yes, I think experience, the journey, everything that Stacy said, and just to add to that is the people and the capabilities, and then the metrics and the ownership, and then you've covered it.
I'm suddenly very hungry for chocolate cake.
Yes. If I can add, what's really awesome about this is that we relate to each other what we're talking about, and we live millions of miles apart physically, right? So it shows, I don't know if it's worth highlighting how far we are, but right, you're in South Africa?
Yes, that's correct.
Right? And I'm in the USA, in New Jersey. And even though we live so far apart, the principles are the same.
Yes.
Yeah, the principles of customer experience are universal.
Yes.
Michelle, like your kind of 3 layers, I always talk about experience in 3 layers as well, but the layers are a little bit different. And I always say that every experience needs to be accessible, functional, and emotional. So you need to consider how you're going to deliver on all 3 of those elements.
Yes. And the functional do speak about the people and the technology as well. That's another way of looking at that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So in the book, Customer Experience 2, Stacy and Michelle both dive in deeper onto the following topics. So they're just going to give you a little teaser. So if you want more, please go to Amazon and grab a copy of our book. But Stacy, right now, can you tell us a little bit about how the VOC, or voice of the customer, fits into experience design?
Yes, it is a key ingredient to this chocolate cake. And that is, in order to design products and services and experiences that customers want, that people want, you have to infuse the voice of the customer. In other words, bring the customer to the table in early design phases and ask them, validate that the journey you're creating actually meets their needs. They'll tell you, but the key is to ask them and bring them into the process. In addition, after you launch, whatever that is, you also follow up and get the voice of customer, VOC we call it, in that post-launch phase so that you continue to optimize what the customer is expecting. Does perception equal reality? And so that's what VOC, voice of customer, is. It's making sure that you're designing and implementing based on the outside in, not what internally you think customers want. And one tiny extra thing to say here is that VOE, voice of employee, also is a factor in this, where employees can give feedback. But I caution people, there's many companies I've been in or seen that will use the voice of employee instead of the customer. You cannot replace it. You use both.
It's a really great point and a great distinction to make. Michelle, I'd love to hear your thoughts on how behavioral science comes into play here.
So I personally find that my 2 biggest challenges as an experience designer is we find that what people say they do and what they actually do is not the same. And that makes it difficult for us to design products and services and ultimately experiences around what people say that they want or they need. The other thing is that consumers make judgment, they make choices based on context. So we're very much influenced with context, and that's often not considered when we design products or experiences. And so both of these 2 challenges are really around consumer behavior. So that's where behavioral science comes in. And the value there is that it's a study of humans. It's a study of human behavior through real life observation and through scientific experimentation. And it really helps us to explain patterns and to predict behavior and influence behavior. So, and the benefit for me for organizations is that there's a lot of studies that's already been done that's currently only sitting with academia. So if we can tap into that and start using that insights and bring it into our experience design, we will be able to become better at designing products, services, and ultimately experiences. And the flip side of the coin is that companies can also contribute if they do more research and become more experimental. they can actually then contribute to organizations, to academia as well. So it can be a win-win situation. Now, you probably know that the peak end rule, for instance, all of us, most of us, has already mentioned something or given some consideration when we design journeys around the peak end rule. So that's the theory that customers don't often have memory of the end-to-end experience. Their memory is around, the most memorable one is the one with the most emotions, and normally the one at the end. So that's the peak end theory. That is a theory that comes from behavioral science. So there's the book from Noah Fleming, and his work has included most of the behavioral science that I've seen to date. So he's incorporated things like anchoring, the anchoring bias, availability bias, confirmation bias, recall bias. So he's really given a lot of these theories. He's explaining it in his book, and he's actually telling you how you can use it in the different stages of the customer experience. So there's a lot of insights for us as experience designers that we can just go and tap into and draw it into our experience. So I'm really, really excited about this and to start using this, but also to experiment and test it, and then to give back as well and to contribute to the bigger science and research. Yeah.
That's fascinating, Michelle. Hopefully you can provide me the name of the book that you're referring to and any resources, and we can include it in the description.
Okay. The book's name is The Customer Loyalty Loop.
Okay, great. I'm making a note of that here for my next read. One item I wanted to touch on here when we're considering experience design is competitive analysis. And I don't know about you or your experiences, but what I found is quite often businesses outsource the competitive analysis piece, and they have consultants do that work. And I'm finding or advising for my clients, they should be doing the competitive analysis themselves and maybe assigning one competitor to each member of their CX team so that everybody becomes aware of what the different competitors are doing. And it also would allow them then to keep current on it, because I find so many organizations, they maybe do the competitive analysis once a year, and post-COVID, well, actually during COVID and post-COVID, I think my prediction is we're going to see a lot of changes happening like rapid fire in the experience space. So I think it's a really important thing is to consider the competitive analysis, because whatever your competitors are doing, and if they're doing it better than you, that suddenly becomes the base level expectation. Would you agree?
Maybe if I can just add, I just had a comment. I spoke to someone just before this meeting on around immersion and how that is really an element of immersion for the design team. So I can't agree with you more. I think that's the part of the research, the upfront work, the trend analysis, the desktop work that we need to do upfront in order to prep ourselves for these when we want to do journey workshops or redesign workshops. So I can't agree with you more, Janelle. I think it's definitely something that should be an internal capability, and it shouldn't be outside. Yeah.
If I can add to that, people, what we're talking about here is really getting deep into the CX practice, but I also want to raise it up a notch and say, even at the basic level, that people can look at just even sources like social media and pay attention to what, again, it's the voice of the customer in a unstructured way to see what are their pain points. They're telling you, they're vocal on review sites, on social media, never mind your own company's customer care calls and online chat, if you have that. I mean, the key is aggregate what's out there already. It's not hard. You just have to take the time and discipline to listen, and you'll get the competitive insights as well as your own. So I just want to bring that up, because I would like everybody to do what we're talking about in a very methodical way, but also don't forget the basics.
It's a great, great point. Maybe to close us out, Stacy, I'll start with you and then go to Michelle. I would love to just hear, what's your example of a really well-designed and robust experience? Maybe it's something that existed before COVID or something that's come around during COVID.
Yes, I have so many examples. I'm trying to think of one I haven't said before, but I have to go back to one of my favorites, which is Trader Joe's. I don't know if you have that in South Africa, but no, oh, you're missing out. So this store, what's wonderful about it, you do have grocery stores there, but what's special about this store is that, talk about the customer journey. From the moment you walk into this store, this food store, forget about the products. They're all amazing. And it has such a following on social media, people talking about the food. But besides that, the moment you walk in, at least where I am locally, and I think this is very consistent, that you walk in and the staff says, hello, welcome. And you go through the store, you can't find something, there's a lot of staff around, and they'll say, oh, can I help you? You tell them what you're looking for. They don't just point and tell you what aisle to go to. They actually walk you to the aisle. They'll open the chips or whatever you're looking at. And I'm like, no, you don't have to waste it on me. No, we want to make you sure you like it. They open the bag, they give me a taste. And, that experience, right? Then when you're checking out and you're buying, it's very personalized. They talk to you about the products. It's not a cookie cutter approach. And so I could spend many hours dissecting Trader Joe's and stores like that. But the point is that get the basics right. And these are not hard things that others can do to humanize business.
Michelle, I'd love to hear your example.
So I was thinking about this quite hard because I want to relate it back to behavioral science. And really the only two examples that I could find was from Walt Disney. But it's actually both are very good examples of how they use behavioral science to improve the experience. So I don't know if you guys know this, but they actually went and they observed the guest and see how long would they carry rubbish before they will just drop it. So they went and they sat and they observed them, and they found, I think it's about 12 feet, if I've got it correct. So what they've then done is they then went, and based on that, they determined the distance that they need to put the rubbish bins from each other, so that it will trigger the right behavior with people. So that is a very good example. And the other one was there was an example of a guest that couldn't find their parking. They couldn't find their car. They couldn't remember where did they park. So eventually the security guard arrived and he asked them, but where did you park? And they said they can't remember and whatever. So he said, but what time did you arrive at the park? So they said, why does that matter? But in any case, let's say we arrived at 9. And he managed to take them exactly to their car. And the reason is because they have a system in place where they could actually know, based on the time that you arrived, approximately where did you park. And they could only know this by observing people and seeing the types of challenges, and maybe anticipating some of the things that can happen. And that, I mean, if you think of the peak end rule again, this is a good example. If you can't find your car, and that's going to be probably the the last thing you're going to remember about your experience. So these are both very good examples of how they use behavioral science to just really improve the customer experience.
Can I comment on that? I love your examples, especially because most of the time it's UX, right? User experience is very much applied to an online website development. And I love how you've taken it offline to real environments, because it's easy to do when you're developing an app or a website and you watch users and see where they're going and not going and usability. but the offline has to be done too. And I love that.
I think, sorry, just to add to that, sorry, Janelle, is I think typically even in our space, UX is normally associated with technology. And I think maybe that is the missing link, Stacy, to your point.
Yeah.
Those are all great examples, and they really highlight that experience design needs to be thoughtful, and more importantly, it needs to be deliberate. So for Trader Joe's to make that work consistently, it is a designed experience. They have to have their training program for their employees they need to coincide with that. And on the Disney side, they've really thought through that entire journey and where those pain points are by observing the behavior. So all great examples. Thank you so much, ladies, for joining me today. And if you guys want to contact either Stacy or Michelle, feel free to grab their contact information from the description below. And one last plug for our book, Customer Experience 2, available on Amazon. And if you've loved this content, please subscribe to this channel. Thanks, everyone, and have a great day.
Thanks, Janelle.